Welcome back. In this lesson today, we are going to be making the nut right here that kind of opens up for our threading for our bolt. And let's go ahead and dive on in it. So let's go ahead and open up our last project here and let's just save it as draft 6. All right. So we've got our bolt down here. That's looking good. And we're not going to parent the bolt to the dog head because we want it to be, movable as much as we can. But now we want to add in the nut and it's going to go up here. We'll go into see-through mode. So it's just going to kind of match right here. So to add a bolt, we're going to make sure our 3D cursor is in the same spot where we had it before, just at the base of the dog roll here, and make sure you're in object mode, and we'll do Shift A and add a bolt. But instead of a bolt today, we're going to switch it down to the nut. And notice it's really, really tiny. It's right here. But what we want is to scale this up to fit our threadings. And we know we had major and minors. I think it was like 33 and 32, something like that. We can always just kind of look at it here. And our pitch was 1.5. And we need to increase the size of our nut here. So it's really, really, really tiny. So let's just keep expanding it out and make it maybe, I think our other one was 40. So we'll do 40. And there we go. Now you can see it's lining up with the bolt down here. And so it looks like the nut height is kind of determining, how many threads we want here. And we can just do something maybe like 10, just like before. There we go. And so these are about the same height. So what we need to do now is just kind of place it where we want this to all take place. So the thing that we have to keep in mind for this is that the bolt is going to stop right here because of the roll. So really all we have to do is take this and, just GZ and bring it down and then just kind of eyeball G and Z and just kind of see. So it looks like our threading is correct here, but it may need to be just a little bit wider. So you can see if we zoom in here, the threading is just right on top of itself. So that's not going to give us enough space in the real world when we're actually 3D printing this. So what we need to do is redo this nut real quick and make it just ever so slightly bigger. So we'll just do X to delete that. We'll do Shift A and do a new bolt. And it should remember most of our parameters here. Yep, so that's looking good. We've got 10, 40, 33, 32, 1.5. So what we need to do is just add a little bit of offset to these major and minor. So to do that, we can just start with, 33.3 or 0.4 or 0.5, just to make it super easy. I'm going to do 0.5, and that's going to be the amount of gap or tolerances that are in between our threads here. So we can do 32.5. And notice this one, it still is 33.5, but it's just rounding up. But as long as you can kind of go in here and do G and Z, and just bring that down, somewhere in like this ballpark. But we want it to line up with our dog head as well. So maybe even just a little bit, so we want a little bit of the neck to kind of come into this little dog part here. Maybe even G and Z. Maybe just somewhere in there, like right above the baseline of our roll here. So just somewhere in there. And that's looking pretty good. Notice here on the threading, we could even go a little bit smaller. So somewhere in there is looking great. You see how we have this nice gap in between? That is what you want from the front and the side. And that's looking good. So that should screw together pretty nicely. Notice we do have this kind of straight part of the bolt that's going to interfere with this little tooth here. So we are going to fix that up in the next lesson and kind of chop off a piece of these nut and bolt, because right now they're overlapping each other. But in the next video, we're going to talk about kind of meeting the bolt and the nut kind of in the middle and making a very nice, almost like a collar for our dog here. So that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and save it. And notice that our nut is way up here. So let's just drag it down into the flexible design. So we've got it all here. And we can even grab these two, the nut and the bolt, and do M to move them to a new collection. And we can just call this nut and bolt and say OK. And there we go. We've got our nut and bolts inside of our flexible collection. And that just keeps everything nice and tidy and organized and easy on the brain. So let's go ahead and jump into the next lesson where we're going to tighten up this collar and make it look a little bit more better.